Hi, Zizaran here with another video, and today we're going to be talking about Diablo 4. In a recent interview, Diablo 4's general manager confirmed that the game would be getting paid yearly expansions. Now, this will also supposedly be full price. We don't know exactly how much, and there's a lot of speculation here, but this is pretty crazy on a game that's riddled with a lot of controversies, like a lot of people feeling like the game came out in an unfinished state. And now we're going to be talking about the fact that we will have paid expansions yearly, which I believe is something similar to what other games like Destiny does. Now, this is scary to a lot of players because we are 5 months after launch and Diablo 4 has yet to figure out a lot of problems, especially pertaining to the endgame loop. It's extra crazy because you have journalists like IGN saying Diablo 4 as a near perfect endgame, whereas they were surprisingly slating the campaign, whereas most actual players that I've heard have said the opposite, where, you know, the campaign was pretty good or at least okay, whereas, well, there isn't an endgame at all currently, which is the biggest problem for people that are playing a lot of time, and especially a lot of fans of Diablo that were really expecting and hoping for something to chew on. There isn't much of an endgame right now, so you see even like really hardcore Diablo veterans are having a hard time investing insane amounts of hours in the game. So I wanted to make a quick TLDR video on all my thoughts on all of this and just talk a little bit about monetization in gaming as well. To have full context, let's dive into the full scope of Diablo 4's monetization. Diablo 4 launched a few months ago, and at the time of recording with multiple editions available for purchase. Now, this is quite normal in-game releases, and not where the problem lies. The black sheep here is the predatory early access. Now, normally when a new online game launches, those who pre-order get a few days of early access no matter the tier. This is already an anti-consumer practice. I don't agree with this, but at least then everybody who pre-orders is treated equally. It basically rewards you for buying into it regardless if it's a good game or not. This was not the case in Diablo 4, as you had to pre-order and pay an extra $20 on top of the already $70 box price to be able to play earlier. And this is a direct gameplay advantage. And in a game that actually has an economy, and especially a thing that people were pushing for, in this case the Lilith race, this is pretty crazy, and a lot of people cared about that. I saw several people say, I can't afford the $20 extra, so I will not be able to race for Lilith. And this was from players that actually had a chance to get, you know, pretty high in hardcore. But the race to first, we finished it and got rank 1 before early access even started.
Oh, conduit! Oh, there it is! Oh! There it is! The W! The W!
This has started happening in more games as well, such as, for example, Starfield and Life of JP, something like that, some sort of Dark Souls game that's coming out. They're also starting to do this where you can pay to play the game early. So I did give in and buy the Diablo 4 early access, but I have not done so for Starfield. I'm a huge fan of space games. I loved Freelancer, and I have around 15,000 hours in EVE Online, and I didn't want to buy an early access to Starfield. I'm actually going to wait a long time with buying it. I don't really need to play it at launch. I'll play it whenever I want, but I'm sure as hell not supporting early access when I don't feel like I absolutely have to, and it's a game I'm going to play anyway. I think it's really bad, and it's basically turning into peasant queue or peasant launch, right? It's like, yeah, you can play at the normal launch, you know, because that's what the actual launch ends up being, right? Like, it ends up being actual launch is when you pay in, because so many people end up doing it. They're like, oh, well, I'm going to play anyway. What is an extra $20? I do think it's like getting really bad now, to the point where I'm feeling like most game companies are now starting to try to nickel and dime their players for how much they can get. Anyway, it doesn't stop there, as Diablo 4 also features a fully fleshed out in-game cash shop with different cosmetics for armor, weapons, and mount skins. I am actually a huge fan of a game being supported cosmetically, even if that means that the cosmetics are slightly pay to win. Path of Exile has this, where I've been saying, for example, what we were doing with the magic fighting stuff, it's borderline unplayable unless you have the Void Spark that just looks better. This could obviously be solved by just having an opacity slider for effects, which we don't have access to. That being said, still, like, even cosmetics that give you an advantage are so much better than anything in a game that actually gives you an advantage. Like being able to buy gold, being able to buy gear, anything like that, or stash tabs even. Like, cosmetic monetization is my favorite. But there are two concerning things about the implementation in Diablo 4. They have a weekly rotation where they rotate in and out. This uses FOMO, right? Fear of missing out, which honestly, I am not the worst against. I get why it's important and how it makes them a lot more money. So that's like, out of all the predatory things, which it still is, it's pretty low in the totem tier. However, they are also doing a very predatory trick, very common in mobile games and things for your phone, where you can buy platinum, which is the cash shop currency. And you can buy this in batches of 200, 500, but a lot of item bundles sell for 2,200, 2,600, 900. You will always have points left over, right? You're not buying, okay, this cosmetic costs $15. Here's my $15. You might have to buy $17 worth of things. So you might at some points find yourself, oh, I am short 50 points. Well, I have to spend $5. Now I have $4.5 worth of points. Can't buy anything with that either. And you can see where this could be a problem very often. Now, on top of this, Diablo 4 also features a battle pass. I had great concerns about this and how pay to win it would be, because there are things that gives you power in forms of XP, gold find, magic find, and elixir duration and stuff like that, and you can pay to increase your pass. Now, it's not entirely not pay to win, but I did talk to Steel Mage. I hadn't played season 1 myself, but I did talk to Steel Mage, and he said it's not entirely non-pay to win, but it is basically not an issue because there are like high level caps and stuff like that. So even if you do pay to like advance the free part, it doesn't really matter. But that is another form of monetization that is still in the game. You can throw an extra $20 or something, and you have the final tier of the battle pass that gives you tier skips and, you know, the cosmetics and everything instantly without having to unlock them. That didn't sound like a big issue, of course, but this is another angle that they are monetizing their game. Now, another thing that's important is the game isn't even doing that well on Twitch. Now, obviously, I don't like comparing games that are like, you know, late in the season compared to another launch. Very often when I'm playing Path of Exile, or even if I'm playing another game and no one's streaming Path of Exile, it only has like 300 viewers on Twitch, people will come in from like that don't like Path of Exile and they'll be like, haha, Path of Exile is a dead game, only 300 people watching. So I don't like it when people do the same thing to Diablo in my chat, because people are doing that right now. They're like, oh my god, there's only 300 people watching Diablo 4, dead game. The reason I don't like doing that is these are very seasonal games, and you know, at launch we do have a lot of viewers watching Diablo 4, we do have a lot of people watching PoE, so it would be hypocritical of me to give them shit for the same thing. However, one thing that is important, it is starting to fall off very quickly on Diablo 4, and that is something that's bad, right? Like sometimes in a PoE season that isn't very good, you'll see the Twitch viewership fall off very quickly. Instead of being low in month 2, it might be low in month 1, and that is alarmingly dropping off quickly in Diablo 4. So I think season 2, for not everyone, I think it's still a very good casual game, but for a lot of those like diehard Blizzard fans and stuff, it might be make or break for a lot of people, and they're not doing any favors by having so little endgame. And that is one of the main issues. The lack of compelling, repeatable endgame and meaningful additions to it has made people seek to spend their free time in other games. Many are citing it's getting impossible to defend. Some even go as far as calling the whole game a cash grab and an embarrassment for longtime Diablo fans. Personally, the way I rate games is I want to get at least 1 hour of entertainment out of $1 spent in a game. This is obviously not a end-all be-all for games, and ARPGs generally have a lot more buying power for, like, you know, there's so many people in my chat that have 5 to 20,000 plus hours in Path of Exile, right? This doesn't mean you should spend $20,000 on Path of Exile cosmetics. But, you know, I feel like generally games have a very, very good entertainment per value hour. And I actually already feel like I have gotten my value worth out of Diablo 4. I think I've played close to 200 hours already. And I do plan to come back at least every season for a little bit. So value-wise, was it worth it? Absolutely. Do I still want to complain and hope the game gets better? Absolutely. Because I think a constructive criticism on where they can improve is so important, and I really want Diablo 4 to be good to improve all ARPGs, because that's also going to bring more people to the genre because of the pool that Blizzard has. And this is also so important because Diablo 4 is an ARPG that comes as a sequel and a follow-up to a legendary pedigree of games. Diablo 2 is literally one of the best games and most highly rated games of all time. Like, off its time when it came out, it was absolutely legendary and just basically dropped a tactical nuke on any other game that came out. And people still play Diablo 2 today. Diablo 3 was also very popular at launch, and while it was plagued with issues and launch issues, still a very popular game until it started becoming power creeped out, and there was like, just one guy working on the seasons. So these are already very popular games, and a lot of people had very high expectations for Diablo 4. So the discontent of the player base in ARPG and Diablo fanbase has led to discussion about the existence of boxed expansions. So does a game with Diablo 4 with so many fundamental flaws that really need fixing really benefit from paid expansions this early? We've seen games like No Man's Sky and Fallout 76 have huge issues at launch, even borderline destroying the reputations of the game companies. And then we had things like No Man's Sky did the biggest 180 of all time. They didn't charge for anything. They just hunkered down and kept working and kept working. And if you play No Man's Sky today, you're probably going to have an amazing time. A lot of people still have distrust because of the things they feel like they were lied to before the game came out. But both Fallout 76 and No Man's Sky have just really, I've been hearing so many good things about these games that for a lot of people, they have redeemed themselves. And maybe that's the kind of route that Diablo 4 needs to do. Like charging for an in-game expansion, even whether it's $30 or $100. I don't think the price is the end all be all here. I think it's really important that they get the game to a really good state where everybody's happy and actually have a multitude of things to do in the end game, like an exciting loot to find, before they start charging us for expansions. We have seen a trend lately where games focus on pumping out yearly expansions with a huge marketing push, and many are actually believing that they prioritize quantity over quality. Destiny 2's general manager admitted in a live GDC talk where the seasonal model of pushing regular, hugely marketed expansions, regardless of their quality, is often in the company's best interest.
For a live service, more than anything, more important even than quality, a live service is about being fast. Live service is the business of constant delivery.
And you usually see influencers like myself be paid large amounts of money at launches like that, and everyone is hyping it up and going like, oh my god, guys, they really turned it around. 1 month later, it wasn't that good anyway, was it, guys? So that definitely amplifies the problem. On top of that, does a full box price of $40 to $60 make sense for a game that is this heavily monetized? Like, what are we expecting to see in these paid expansions? Are we going to see a extension of the campaign? Are we going to see something like that we actually go to hell and fight the legions of hell? Are we going to see a new class? Honestly, that's my biggest expectation, is a new class being added every time. Hey, you guys love the Blood Knight so much in Diablo Immortal, now we're bringing it to Diablo 4. It, for some reason, happens to be the strongest class by far, 2 times more damage than any other class, and it costs you $70. That is like a big fear of mine. The number one thing I want to see is more of like adding to in-game systems, Paragon system, etc. The game really does need a little bit more depth to it. It does not have to be Path of Exile levels, but I think we can all agree that it is not in the best state right now. I'd love to know what are your thoughts in the comments down below. Please discuss, and yeah, let me know how you're thinking. If you're happy with Diablo 4, we'd love to see those viewpoints as well, like what I think is not necessarily what's right. And since there's a lot of things that I'm sourcing and quoting, we'll put all the sources in the description down below of interviews and things like that, of other articles, and just links to images of battle passes and things like that, if you're wondering where everything is sourced from. Either way, I hope you guys like this video. Let me know in the comments down below for that as well. Love if you like it, but more importantly, try to die less than I do.